It's wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much, Joe. Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. So before we get into your good work, I want to know 5 years ago, we were wrapping our heads around this pandemic. All
Mm.
of the unknowns, all of the uncertainty. How did you make it through it, and how has it influenced the way that you work today?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the pandemic at the time was unknown. We didn't know it was going to become a thing. I was actually for work in India at the time, and I was on one of the last flights from India to San Francisco, where I was living at the time. And work-wise for me, my team, I was working at Meta at the time, and my team was completely in the office, right? But then we did everything remote and the world completely changed. So, in terms of the lasting impact that the pandemic has had, I've worked remote ever since then, and I work with a lot of folks who are transitioning careers, right? And the vast majority of them are also looking to work remote too. So it ended up being, March 2020 ended up being a really pivotal time for me. Yes, the pandemic, but also just this change in my work style and life that I didn't even realize was
Yeah.
going to be still in effect till now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let me ask you this. You're the career alchemist, and if I was to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, let's say fifth graders, it's career day, kids always get the truth out. One of the kids in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
Yeah.
you answer them?
Let's say, well, what do you want to do for a living first,
Yeah.
right? And get that and then talk through, okay, like what are the steps that you're going to take to get there, right? Once I elicit some of those responses, I say, this is what I help people with. All right. I help people to go from their North Star, where they're planning on going, and help them plan out step by step how to get there. Right. For me, in my journey, I started as a teacher. I thought growing up very young that I wanted to be a teacher. I had a drive for that. I realized after 8 years that I had fallen kind of out of touch. The administration didn't really care about me. The students didn't. The parents, and I felt lost. I earned $27,000 a year, and from there, I decided I needed a shift. From there, what I did, and similar to what I teach people, and what I would say to the students, depending on their age, is I went from teaching into working at some of these large tech companies like Google, Meta, DoorDash. And I went from being an individual contributor to probably wouldn't use that word exactly, but being a designer to becoming the head of a team, a VP at a few of the companies. So that's my story, and that's how I explain it to everyone, right? Like anything that you want to do can be possible, and I help people get there step by step. Um, Even if it seems like it's maybe the most impossible thing in the moment, because I believe everything in life is figure outable, and you can make things happen if you have the right guidance and support and tenacity.
So let me ask you this. Take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were the foundational seeds of giving you this knack for teaching and wanting to strive to become a VP and now to help people
Yeah.
find their meaning in life? What were those seeds that were planted?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. So I remember very vividly my fifth grade teacher. She was someone who really inspired me. I felt like she really heard who I was. Um, and ever since then, I kind of aspired to move in her footsteps, right? Because a, a lot of a lot of what I had experienced, I was teased a lot as a kid, and she was one who helped me realize that I didn't need to be treated this way, and I was better than how people were impacting me. And I've always had a love for language, so it felt like a really natural step. And an inspired step for me to move forward in. And I had wanted to be a teacher throughout middle school, high school, in college. I got my degree in linguistics, then I moved into teaching. So it something that I kind of just naturally followed that path. And yeah, growing up, I always had respect for the teachers that I had, and really saw it as someone who was helping me become a better person, and I wanted to do the same.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, who has been that hero for you? Who has been that one that's consistently been in your life that's helped you through this evolution of the beginning to now?
Yeah, so I would say my aunt, she's someone who's known me since I was young and helped me through, when I was under 10 and, that part of life. And now she has seen me evolved and our relationship has changed quite a bit, right? So she was an educator as well too. She taught at a university in New York, and I felt like she really understood me, understood what I was working towards. And then once I moved away from education, she understood and had the empathy that like maybe this wasn't the best fit for me and what I was trying to accomplish in life. So she's always been supportive, and um really, as my North Star has changed, she has been kind of a guiding light for me in terms of how I um, emotionally and thoughtfully move forward to these next steps without judgment.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, inspirational, someone that might help you on your journey, or you're just curious about them and you could ask some questions and spend some time with them, who would that be?
Yeah. Barack Obama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd join you. That would be good.
Yeah. 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 I mean, his story and his experience really, growing up in Hawaii, which it's funny, I actually taught at the high school he went to, which was kind
Wow.
of funny at the time, right? But he didn't come from money, right? He worked his way up ladder step by step, right? And I mean, we all know kind of what he turned into. He became the president of the United States. And I think, you know, the tenacity, the dedication, and um the forward thinking that he had in order to navigate that, I think is second to none. So I would love to meet him and understand more about his story from his words,
Yeah.
talking not just about like the great things he's accomplished, but like what were some of the struggles that he had to deal with, and how would he recommend other people to navigate those as well too.
So I listened to Michelle Obama's book and listening to how they courted each other and how he was a voracious reader and all of those beginnings. It is wild how it all just kind of went into warp speed because even in '08, when he went to Iowa, he wasn't really the front runner. And then all of a sudden there's
Mm-hmm.
these big crowds and it turns into like the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And we're like, wait, hold on a second. What's right? And then
Yeah.
but then I think too, in this modern world of so much noise, he was a true leader. He walked into a room and he made you feel comfortable and he calmed you down. And it's like we've lost so much of that, that
Mm-hmm.
civility, that
Mm-hmm.
making us feel like we all belong, that this is
Yeah.
our collective like raison d'etre to like just be good human beings. And
Yeah.
just the volunteering he would do on MLK Day, all of those things. It's painful to go through all of the things that have
I
completely
know.
deviated from this modern world. But
I know.
that was those were hallmarks of how well he governed.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, times have changed, like definitely politically, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a different ball game on one hand, but I also think like, through Barack Obama, but also, I mean, he's one example, but like we all define what we stand for, right? And even through all the chaos and the BS in the world here in the US, but also elsewhere, like we need to stand strong with who we are, what our values are, what we represent, and, not just be completely influenced by what other people are telling us, right? Otherwise, what do we stand for, right?
Yeah.
Who are we? Are we just followers?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be just a follower. I
Right.
want to be paving the way and helping people live their best lives. Because at the end of the day, this is going to seem really grandiose, but when I'm on my deathbed, I want to say, like, oh, I helped other people live a better life,
Yeah.
right? It's not because I was like, I don't want to persecute people or make people feel bad about what they're doing. It's about empowerment, right? So, yeah, like I think we all individually can take ownership of this for ourselves, and we can't take ownership of other people, right? But we need to do what we can to do this. And I think Barack Obama was a perfect example of that. That's why I really would love to meet him and
Yeah.
look up to him. So yeah, Michelle too.
Yeah. I will go on the record and say I love that tan suit. In fact, I would love to get a tan suit.
I know, me too. Yeah, yeah.
You know? So let me ask you this. What gets you up every day? What is the ultimate motivator for you not only to do the good work that you do in business, but to take care and nurture your soul?
Mm, that's a that's a great that's a great question. So what I do every morning is I meditate, and um the intention of my meditation is on what how I want to represent myself and represent others through the day, right? And for me, I'm I always focus my day on three words, right? Every day showing up, I want to inspire people to be their best selves. I want to empower them to take action. Then I want to equip people with being the best that they can be and the steps they need to get there, right? And yes, like I mean that in my business, but not only that, really in life, right? Any way that I can help people do better things, that's what I want to do. So that's what I do. And I also focus on my four self. So every day I make sure that I get in, um, that I'm tapping into my emotional side. And I feel like um, there's some fulfillment that I'm getting where I'm bringing joy into my life. Then there's a spiritual side where really tapping in and tuning into more of my inner worth, inner strength. From there, my physical self, how am I taking care of my body, the food I eat, how I'm exercising. Then my mental self, right? How am I stimulated, right? How am I learning and growing as a person? So every day I identify what are four things that I'm doing in those categories. And they can be really small or they can be sometimes really big. But I find that um, ever since I've been doing this, I haven't really been burnt out. And I work with a lot of folks who are transitioning careers because they feel really burnt out. And really one of the big things that helps them is actually kind of expanding what they're doing, right? Instead of just working, work, like bring in these other components because you need to work on the whole you, not just one part of you.
Well, that's the true mark of evolution too.
Exactly.
Well-rounded evolution. So let me ask you this: if you were to walk into a room of everybody that knows you in a business sense, you
Mhm.
swim through that group of people, you go up to a podium, and you can tell them one fun story, one fun anecdote, a first concert, jumping out of an airplane, a special talent that you have, a great adventure you've been on. What would you tell them that would humanize you a little bit?
Um, well, the one thing that I do tell when I do speeches or talks, is I talk about a big focus of what I talk about is career, right? And I've moved into leadership in some of these big tech companies, but really, when I was growing up, the job I wanted to do was a bus driver, right? I like before I wanted to be a teacher, right? I'd always dreamed of just being behind that yellow school bus and like driving it and having being able to like bring kids to and from school, right? So, I talk about this. I mean, it's not like a grandiose thing like jumping out of an airplane, although that is something that's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But it's something that like, we all or most of us have been on a bus before, right? And have experiences where we have engaged with someone in our lives. And there's been something about that that has captivated us, and we want to aspire to be like that. I mentioned Barack Obama, but now, like, it was my bus driver. Her name was Lori on Cape Cod, right? So yeah, I think that humanizes me in a way where, like, I don't. I mean, I'm a dreamer just like everyone else, but it's not always dreaming of like being the president of the United States
Yep.
or any, well, actually, that's not one of my dreams. I don't want to do that.
Right.
But these super big aspirational pieces, there's all these small experiences, right, that I've aspired towards in different ways. And some of them have come true, some of them haven't. But, it's still like living a life that is inspired, right? So, I guess my way of humanizing myself is through inspiration, right? Is through showing that just like these everyday type of experiences and these things that might seem very mundane and really maybe basic, this is the fabric of who we are. And you don't need to be anything you're not, right? Like go with what brings you joy, right? Just like I have. And maybe those things don't work out. I never did become a bus driver, unfortunately, right? But my path brought me somewhere else. So, just live life for where you're at. Like I have done as a bus, wanting to be a bus driver, as a teacher, as, a designer, like then leading teams in tech, do what brings you joy. And when it stops bringing you joy, you focus on what else brings you joy,
That's it.
right? And
That's
things
it.
shift.
There was a guy I used to work with that used to call bus drivers pupil pilots. It was my favorite term of all time. I absolutely loved it. But I love those answers because I've talked to people that have been in high power positions and they're like, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be a taxi driver. I was like, well,
Yeah,
that's it. You know what I'm saying? Or I wanted to be the guy riding the garbage truck, you know?
right.
And I love those dudes because my son's on the spectrum. He's
Mhm.
20. And when we're out playing catch or something, he'll always get the ball like he's going to throw it to the trash guy, and they're always ready. They're always like, "Let's do it." Just like even if it's hazardous and they let go of the wheel, they're ready to catch the ball. And it's like
I
that's the
love
spirit.
that.
It's the wonder of a child that needs to
Yeah.
stay within us as adults, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say too that he's lucky, right? That he still has that youthful like nature to him because a lot of people like when they're like 4 or 5 years old, that starts to drain out of them. And the reality of the world of like, you don't have enough money, you need to work 9 to 5, all of that starts to come in. So yeah, I mean, we need to live life like we are a child, right? Like, it, yeah, why not,
Yeah. There was a poet, Charles Bukowski, once said, "We're born geniuses and buried idiots." It's like we have all of this, like no fences around us as human beings, and then we
Yeah,
start like walls and things, and it's just yeah. So
yeah,
stay
yeah.
as young as there was a woman in one of my poetry classes when I was in college, and she was
Hmm.
in her 70s, and we were all going around saying what we wanted to do for a living, and obviously she's in her 70s. She's just kind of doing this to do it and they
Yeah.
got to her and she said, I don't want to grow up. That was her whole thing, and that I will never forget that. It's been a profound statement that's reverberated throughout all these decades, but that's it right there, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean exactly. Like I feel the same. Like I don't want to do some of these boring, mundane things that everyone says you have to. I mean, come on. Like, you I yes, there are things like yes, you do need to pay rent and all of that, but at the end of the day, once if you lose that exploration phase to who you are, like, and you're just kind of going through the rigmarole of what you're supposed to do because everyone's telling you to do that, then who are you, right? You're just turning into this maybe drone. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? That's
I
not
totally
fun.
get it. I totally get it. So of all of these things that you've done, accomplished, and evolved into in your life, what are you the proudest of?
um, it's a great question. I'm the proudest, maybe because it's top of mind, but like what I'm doing right now, right? I I as I mentioned, my career, I went from teaching in high school and then higher ed. Then I moved to working in corporate and big tech companies and startups, right? And now I'm 100% I have my own business, my own, and I'm doing coaching on my own, right? Which to me really it's allowing me to like, how do I say, like, I'm limitless,
Right.
essentially, right? I can help people in the way that I want to, not on behalf of Google, Meta, whatever, right? Like, I'm the one who sets how I'm helping people, right? And this is like the most empowering part of my life now. And what I love helping people doing is helping people go from how I was, where I felt not empowered. I felt like I was depressed, I was overweight, I had no money coming in, and going into something where you're building out that next step that's getting you closer and closer to what you do want in your life, whether it's more money, it's more work-life balance, whatever it is, like that to me is very empowering. So I would say now. Um, yeah,
I like that answer. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your
yeah.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, well, it's interesting, right? Like, is my perception what everyone else perceives me as?
Right, right.
So I would say, overall, well, I would say, okay, this is what I would say on my deathbed, or not on my deathbed, after I die. What I want people to say at my funeral is Keith lived life to his fullest. He really cared about the people in his life who mean the most to him, and he didn't settle for anything less than what he deserved, right? When people tell me I can't do something, or no, you shouldn't do that, da da da, I'm the type of person, and I want to be known for this, as like someone who defies the odds. And I don't listen to people's judgments and what they believe I should do, right? But I see through that, right? And I help other people see through that, right? Cut through the societal bullshit, right? Pardon
Oh,
my
you're good.
French. Um, and yeah, that's what I want to be known for. And I hope that people describe me in that light. Rather than maybe negative things.
Right.
But
Yeah.
who knows?
Th-
I don't know what people necessarily think of me, because that's their business. That's
Yeah.
not mine,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. We can only take care of ourselves. No, that sounds like a sound legacy. So, Keith, if anyone wants to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, for sure. So you can check out my website, which is careeralchemylab.com. And if you're interested in a conversation, I do offer free 30-minute consultations. So yeah, just hop on my calendar. You'll see it there on my website. In addition, if you just want to learn kind of more about me and my background, you can check out my LinkedIn, which is my handle on LinkedIn is Keith and, so KEITHAND. Every day at 9 a.m. Eastern time, I post. I have posts about advancing your career and living a more fruitful life within your professional identity. So if that resonates with you, check out my posts. And yeah, and I love talking with people. I love helping people in their journey with whatever that looks like. So please come visit, reach out if you have any thoughts or questions, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Absolutely. I will put this all in the show notes. Keith, what a delight. Thank you. It's been wonderful to meet you. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.